This is the Wheel of Time podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're back for the finale of the Wheel of Time Season 2, Episode 8, What Was Meant to Be.
Well, it looks like our time is up. Will you join us?
I will never serve him. In 1,000 lives, I never have. I know that. I'm sure of it.
Welcome back, fellow wheelies, for the finale of the Wheel of Time Season 2 on TV Podcast Industries. Yes, we're talking about the Wheel of Time, Episode 8 of Season 2, What Was Meant to Be. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow wheelies. I am one of your other hosts, John.
And weaving as the wheel wills, I'm Chris.
Oh, very good, Chris. Very good. You've been practicing that all season, haven't you?
All day, because I knew we were recording tonight. I was like, gotta get this right. How much seashells away the seashore can she sell? Oh. No, the wrong one.
You're on it, Chris. We'll have to send you more tongue twisters and see if you can get any more of them. But we won't be talking about that in this podcast. What we will be talking about is the finale of the Wheel of Time. I'm going to jump out right up front and say this is probably my favourite episode of TV I've seen this year. I thought this was a fantastic end to the season and got me so excited for next season. But throughout, I was running through all the roller coaster of emotions, joy, pumping fist in the air with some characters' performances and some characters' actions in the episode, and lots of tears in some quite big places as well, which we'll probably talk about.
I felt like I'd gone to the vet or something at one point.
Oh, John. Spoilers.
You're happy, then you get put in a cage, then you're crying, you know what happens, then you're out again and you're free.
Exactly.
Joy.
That sounds like the roller coaster of emotions of the Wheel of Time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This was epic TV, like proper, like with a capital EPIC. Like it reminded me of like a finale of Game of Thrones, like season 3 kind of levels, or maybe 4 when like Daenerys got the dragon and you're like, oh my god, like just culmination of plot. Like they stacked everything and then just kind of hit that domino at the end. Yeah. And just let it ride. And you were just like, my God.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I'm completely there with you. Loved this episode so much. It kind of makes me want to go back and just watch season 1, season 2 back to back actually now, because it's just really fantastic TV. And I mean, I think as well, because, you know, the usual debate of book readers and TV watchers, you know, I'm kind of half and half here. So only really close to finishing book 4, and it's just been adapted so well. I mean, stuff is happening that I haven't even got to yet. So dare I say it, the weaving of the One Power by the showrunner here, Rafe Lee Judkins, I think is just like phenomenally good. It's really good. It makes sense. And ultimately, despite all these changes and adaptations and new aspects, it still finishes where it finishes in book 2, ultimately. So it was kind of really, really good. Loved it.
Unfortunately, we do have to talk every now and again about the comparison aspect. But I think the key difference that we'll always have on our podcast is we understand adaptations are adaptations. 13 books that are as dense as the Wheel of Time. There are some things in there, like that even Robert Jordan himself went, I just dropped that thread. Like he purposely, like he wrote these books over the course of many years. Some of them just did not make sense. And if you were to try and put some of that on TV, it just doesn't, it wouldn't look visually great. It wouldn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I am seeing this as a standalone adaptation, and this thing that, as John said, like, go back and watch season 1 and 2. Now I know how these kind of total amount of episodes come together. I'm like, the storyline through, so well done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they had a vision and they stuck to it. And as much as that dragon mounting the tower, it's just this flaming beacon of, this is how you can land good fantasy, high epic kind of TV again in the shadow of what was Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If I was a gymnastics judge, I'd be throwing up the 10 as we speak.
Nice. And I suppose that myself, as the non-book reader of the group, one who hasn't read Wheel of Time, I think this is just an absolutely epic show. It stands up there with all of the previous fantasy shows that we've covered, and head and shoulders above some of the ones we've even covered on the podcast. I think it's been such a good story. Just the culmination of all of the storylines in this one episode are fantastic. And speaking of that, guys, well done on last week's episode, the one without me. Last time we did that a lot on Wheel of Time season 1, but some good feedback on the two of you talking about maybe a little bit too many book moments were talked about, but it's okay. But it's okay.
Sorry, fellow wheelies.
That's what happens when we don't have control. We did warn you coming into that episode. We literally went, oh, it's the two of us. This is going to get weird. Sorry. But apologies and thank you for the feedback.
It's all good. It's all good. I will say one of the elements that was in this episode, which we will, I'm sure, mention, Chris, the most confusing reference to the book from last week about Rand's taka to travel across the land. So I presume
flicker.
that was to do with what we actually saw, the traveling of the Ways Lanfear, traveling with Rand in this episode when she leaves the Ways. So it did actually pop into the episode, which is quite.
So I'll just say no. Flicker is not, and seemingly it might be a drop thread.
Okay,
but this way travels or traveling. I had alluded to that actually like 3 episodes ago as well on our podcast, as a different way to travel, where Ishi and Lanfear were just getting around. But yes, that is something that I will be discussing in this episode.
Okay, good stuff. Well, to mention, before we go into the final discussion on the Wheel of Time, you can, of course, subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't already, pop on over to tvpodcastindustries.com. There is a feed for all of our episodes of the Wheel of Time so far, and there are feeds for all the other shows we cover, and, of course, our main feed, TV Podcast Industries, which has everything we cover, which is a lot at the moment, which is why we're a little bit late with our Wheel of Time season finale discussion. We also will be giving out the final Wheel of Time Tavern quiz question later on in this episode. That gives you all 8 questions, and all you need to do is gather together the correct answers, email them to us at feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, and you could be in with a chance of getting your hands on some Wheel of Time goodies. And finally, we'd love to hear any thoughts you have on the Wheel of Time. If you haven't gotten them into us so far, you can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com with your thoughts, or pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries and leave your thoughts on any of the spoiler posts for the shows we're covering at the moment. But let's get into the Wheel of Time finale.
Definitely. Derek, what are some of the episode details?
Well, of course, as mentioned many times, this is based on the book series by Robert Jordan. A showrunner for the show is Rafe Lee Judkins, who has written this finale along with Tim Earle. Tim Earle was a writer's assistant throughout this season of Wheel of Time Season 2, but obviously working with showrunner Rafe Lee Judkins.
Great stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this episode was directed by Sana Hamri. Sana directed episodes 3 and 4 of season 2 of Wheel of Time.
Love it. I thought Sana brought some really, really good moments and shots in this, and as did the writers as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be an assistant writer throughout the season, to have that co-writing credit for a finale like this. Excellent stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. This episode was so big. It's Monday after the episode is aired when we're recording right now, and they've just announced it is being shown in cinemas across New York tonight. So how cool would this be to see in the cinema?
Definitely. Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. No, some of the I'm jumping ahead to one of my notes, was like the SFX on this were just the visual, just amazing.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I can just imagine seeing that in proper big cinema screen.
Yeah, it'd be so cool. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for The Wheel of Time Season 2, Episode 8, the finale, what was meant to be?
Sure. While travelling through the Ways, Lanfear throws Moiraine and Lan out of a waygate before reaching Falme, and uses other methods to transport herself and Rand into the city. Lanfear alerts Ishamael to Rand's presence before he feels ready to enact his scheme to bring Rand to the dark. Realising she has betrayed him, Ishamael starts to put in motion plans to counter Lanfear and has Padan Fain deliver Mat the dagger from Shadar Logoth to kill Rand with. But Mat finds a creative solution to taking the blade and escapes his prison. Meanwhile, Falme comes under attack from the Whitecloaks, led by Dain Bornhald and his father Geofram, in an attempt to eradicate the Seanchan, but encounter Perrin and the Aiel. As Geofram kills Perrin's companion Hopper, Perrin quickly takes revenge, killing the Whitecloaks leader in front of his son Dain. During the chaos, Ingtar, Loial and Masema escape with the Horn of Valere and join the battle alongside Mat, Perrin and the Aiel. Seeing Egwene captured by the Seanchan, Rand confronts and kills the Seanchan leader Turak and his men. But after a bombardment of Falme's tower disrupts the Damani channelers and their Suldam, Egwene manages to break free from Rhaena, killing her, as she realises that she can be collared as she is a low-level channeler of the One Power. Meanwhile, unable to reach Rand at the tower with his way blocked by Seanchan, Mat is forced to blow the Horn of Valere, summoning the heroes of the Horn to his side and turning the tide of the battle. Rand, Egwene, Nynaeve, Perrin and Mat reunite and are confronted by Ishamael, who has Rand shielded from the One Power, and tricks Mat into wounding Rand with the dagger. While Egwene and Perrin protect Rand and Mat from Ishamael, Elaine and Nynaeve arrive, and Elaine begins to heal Rand's wound. On the beach, Moiraine realises Lanfear had placed her and Lan in the location to free Rand from the shielding, allowing him to channel the One Power and slay Ishamael with his heron sword. As was prophesied, Rand is proclaimed the Dragon Reborn before the whole city, with a fiery dragon bannered across the sky as his friends stand by his side. After the battle, Lanfear is confronted by Moghedien, another of the Forsaken, and learns all Forsaken have been set free and have set their sights on the Dragon Reborn.
To be continued in Season 3.
Yes, indeed. Can't wait. Snap, Rafe. Get it going. Get it going.
Absolutely, but lots to discuss in this episode. We normally talk about our top spokes of the wheel and have extended those to 5 spokes for this episode because so much is going on. So they are our big moments. They are the moments that we're most interested in talking about. But I do want to talk quickly about our 3,000 years ago prologue at the beginning of the episode and the return of the opening credits, which we haven't seen all season of Season 2 of Wheel of Time. Yeah. Apparently, Rafe Jokins had said that he was, in an interview, that he was asked by Prime Video whether he wanted to keep the opening credits or he wanted 2 more minutes of his episode every week. And he said, I'll do 2 more minutes, please. And that's why we've had such long episodes this season. But nice to see those back. But I thought the setup of 3,000 years ago with the confronting of Luce and to Ishamael as he's being put into his prison effectively for the next 3,000 years. I thought that was a great start to the episode because it sets up this idea that they are going round in a circle. They are constantly going back and forth between the two of them about over breaking the world and potentially killing all family and friends of Luce or killing each other effectively is what's going on here. And we learned some little bits about, their relationship is very close. They are very good friends who've been on each other's side in the past. And that plays into the rest of the episode. I thought that was a really good opening setup so you can kind of get in your mind what's going to happen to Rand and his friends.
Definitely. Yeah, I thought this was really good. First of all, I just thought it was really cool seeing the binding and locking of Ishamael into that seal. Like, it was really well done. We've had Ishamael going through this world and, in a sense, he is the strongest Forsaken. He's the lieutenant of the Dark One. But in this opening moment, you kind of get the sense that, but he just wants to be free of it. You know, he says, kill me.
Yeah.
And Luz Therin, is not going to grant him that wish.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, is going to prevent him from getting what he wants, which is kind of almost like a release. And I love how that, as you say, little bits of this play into this episode, and you see that with the death of Ishamael at the end. So I kind of thought this was really, really good. It just, as well, going back the 3,000 years, like we got at the finale of season 1 as well, seeing the flying cars everywhere. So,
Still need to go back and see season 1 because I don't think there were flying cars.
There wasn't.
Big tall
I
buildings.
will quickly say, I'll quickly jump in. There was no flying cars.
Yeah.
But it was basically skyscraper, like massive statues.
I'm sure there were sort of hovering cars or something. I'm convinced I saw the Jetsons in there.
I think you might have been watching the Jetsons.
I absolutely love this. Again, just also showing the Aes Sedai of the age, the two Aes Sedai, the males and females. So we saw all the male Aes Sedai there in their circle, and then above them, in the alcoves were all the females. Again, showing the white and the dark of the both male and female source being male and female Aes Sedai. And that's why absolutely so good to see. Again, just from a lore perspective, looking at how you, I'll talk about the special effects really quickly. Like the digital effects of the power coming from on top into the males, and then them kind of channeling in to the thing, and it started to spin, and you got then the white and the black teardrops. So the fang and the teardrop, which was the Aes Sedai seal. You can see it, and then it looked exactly like the seal of what we saw with the other Forsaken later in Ishamael's room. So you could see this kind of the formation of how that was built with the two powers kind of coming. It just looked fantastic.
Yeah. Absolutely loved it. Let's go on to our spokes of the wheel again. Some of the bigger moments from the episode to discuss. So we're going to start off with one of the biggest, I think, one of the punch in the air moments from the episode. Let's start off with Egwene freeing herself, because I think we've wanted this for the last couple of episodes. Really seeing that opening sequence where Renna's coming in and telling her, we've been ordered to go to the tower. You are going to be used in this war. And if you dare defy me, when we're up there, you'll lose your tongue, as her first threat to Egwene. But we actually see her losing her braid. Very important to her and all the women of the Two Rivers. Every young woman grows their braid from a young age, and her getting her braid back then, right at the beginning of the series, was a big moment for Egwene. And we mentioned the acting from Madeline Madden earlier on in the season, but she's so good here. This moment where she loses her braid, just that moment, you can tell how much that's costing her, how much extra pressure it's putting on her here. What we also learn later on is that this was the entire plan of Ishamael, was to get Egwene on the top of that tower to draw Rand out. He didn't really care if they were able to push back the Whitecloaks from the city of Falme. That's not what he was there for. It wasn't a defensive move. He was getting Egwene in position so that Rand would be drawn up to that place for their battle. But I love how this plays out. I love that Egwene is used. She does use her power, and you can see it being channeled through her. You can see the focus being used by Renna, pushing it through her, and then Egwene turns and defies Renna for the final time in a good way.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, the defiance on Egwene's face is just fantastic. All the way through this. I do wonder whether, that one volley of fire that she sent off, because it was aimed at Whitecloaks, and she remembers what they did to Perrin, at Child Valda. So, she kind of let that one go. But I just really enjoyed, just the defiance in her look, her words, everything here, you know, as the Suldam and the Damane are being mobilized here. I can't say any more. Like you say, it's a complete and utter punch in the air because, you know, she's been treated really badly throughout, you know, since being captured. And this is the moment where, in effect, she extracts her revenge on her tormentor.
And quite specifically, she starts it off by, you're right, she does fire down. You see her kind of feeling the power go through her as she's attacking the Whitecloaks, but she sees what's actually happening on the ground, the kids and the families of Falme all being affected by this blast, and then she spits her dummy out, which I love. That's literally what happens, but that is a phrase saying you're the anger of a child, effectively. She's going, no more, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah. No, and this was great to see. Like, again, speaking of how Gawain and Madeline Madden really just kind of bringing that face of defiance just in every step. Like, you could see the tears rolling as Rena has the knife in her mouth, about to cut her tongue. You see that kind of like, I just need to say one more word. You can just, so beautifully act. And then getting to that point where the explosion happens and you see all the other Suldam dead, essentially, and you can see, like, the blue sitter is no more. Like,
that's right.
She is dead, and we see the Adam fall off, which can only be broken when one of them is dead, and both of them are. And then that, just putting it on, and really, again, just also kind of showing how Egwene is able to, as she is torturing Rena, not torturing, let's say she's getting, in fact, enacting revenge or justice, probably a better way, on Rena by hanging her the same way. She is feeling that too, and you can see that shot for shot as it jumps back and forth between the two characters. And this is one of the reasons I absolutely love the direction for this one.
Yeah,
they were able to almost kind of invert the camera, so one was always looking up and the other was slightly looking down on, so it was almost, but they had the same facial as they were going through the same, essentially, choking. So it's just so well done.
Yeah.
Ending in that way where she just does that final,
absolutely,
death.
I mean, I think what's really important here as well is that it is Egwene that frees herself as well. Even though 100%. Rand is on the board, he's certainly looking to try and get her released. It's the intelligence, it's the nous, it's the determination of Egwene that leads to this. And it's ultimately Egwene's choice to leave Rena hanging till she dies. On that collar, and until she drops, because Egwene has taken off the armband part of that of the mechanism for the Adam.
She's broken that connection between her and Egwene. But you're absolutely right. That is the biggest thing that got me about this scene. Everybody is there to save Egwene. Everybody is going there. Rand is going there because he saw her chained. Nynaeve has tortured another Suldam to find out where to get to Egwene because she needs to be saved. Loial is giving up the opportunity of taking the Horn of Valere out of the city so that they can save Egwene, yet she saves herself. Really, really important. The only person I think that ends off on the tower that isn't going there for Egwene is Mat. It's everybody else is going there for her and her alone, but she saves herself,
and he's going for Rand, which through proxy. I think this is a great way to kind of finish for Egwene, because again, she was having a problem being the smartest in the room and kind of really showing her the full amount of power she had, and kind of back in the tower she wasn't the one she thought she was going to be. This has kind of, again, this is almost like the end of the old Egwene. Again, they kind of very much, and I think the symbolization of that as well is also the cutting of the braid, kind of the defiance and how it also finishes at the end, where like Ishamael, and we'll discuss more, but that stand against Ishamael, like very much showed where she is in this.
Absolutely.
Kind of chessboard.
I think they kind of stressed it earlier on in the season when we heard the Blue Aes Sedai say, you know, you lasted longer than I did about Egwene, and how much power she has and how strong she is as a character. And you mentioned Chris here with Rhaena, effectively shouting at her going, you know, you must be feeling this pain. Egwene is, but she's able to push through it. That's the kind of character that she is in order to kill Rhaena, in order to take that revenge. And
I think as well, it's like you say, she's been totally hardened by this process of torture from Rhaena. And I think what will be really interesting to see is how, or if she can put that behind her, and or how it affects, you know, her relationships moving forward.
Well, absolutely. And I think we'll probably talk about that with all the rest of the characters in this episode.
Bring it on season 3, Rafe.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. One thing I just wanted to mention, in this scene, we don't see, Rima, from last week's episode, the Aes Sedai that was captured, just at the end of the episode. We don't see her up on the tower. I presume she just hasn't been, set to control enough, I guess, to put her on the tower with her Sildam. But we don't see her in this episode. I just thought that was kind of interesting because, potentially they could have had her up there as well, but she, maybe still in play and maybe still available or around somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
I was trying to see if she was with the other ones on the boat, but again, I just couldn't see, because they did kind of pull back, if you want to say, retreated to the boats. I just couldn't see. She may have been on that boat, which do not survive. None of those boats survive. So hopefully she's still in the kind of the prison, which they were calling the kennels.
Yeah, really great moment from the episode. I think we'll move on to our spoke number 2. This one's a tough one to talk about. I've just called it Perrin loses Hopper, but there is so much more that's happening in these scenes with Perrin and the Aiel coming into the city. Loial coming along with the Horn of Valere, which has been a huge thing. That all happened off screen. And that's a massive, it's supposed to be the turning point in the battle. We heard, Ingtar and Loial have an argument about whether they should get the Horn of Valere or whether they should save Egwene. And here they are. They turn up in the middle of the street to meet, Perrin and the Aiel carrying the Horn of Valere, going, we just got it in the confusion. It's grand.
Yeah.
And a woman for Moiraine helped them out. Yes, just a random woman who, we'll talk about that later, but just a random woman helped them. You're like, that's just like a drop, it literally just name dropped.
I thought that was Lanfear. Was I wrong? Because Lanfear was, I am right. Okay.
Yeah.
Grant.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's Lanfear. Yes. Just really kind of dropping these little nests and nuggets of how the kind of deceptive she is, but not fully calling it out as well. I was like, oh wait, because I've like so many dots and kind of lines have been. I was kind of like almost like a murder board going, oh my god, that's there, and then she's there, and then that happened.
Lanfear working on her plan, very much so. But yeah, once the mention of a woman from Cairhien who shouldn't be there, I think it makes sense that it's probably
definitely
Lanfear,
yeah. I mean, coming back to Perrin losing Hopper, I mean, like Cry Central. This to me was like really, really emotional. As I say, it's like going to the vets to have your favorite pet, unfortunately, put down or something like that. This was so well done in terms of its emotional hit. A, because it's an animal. B, it being a real dog, and C, that real dog having those doggy eyes that can melt 1,000 hearts, quite frankly, even in death and with a pool of blood, sort of pouring round. And I think as well, it was the emotional investment then of the reaction of Perrin, which was just so well done.
Absolutely.
I thought
just as the two eyes meet and his yellow eyes come back on as he connects with Hopper as he's dying. I think you're absolutely right. The eyes of Hopper as he dies, I think, are so well filmed. Great dog actor. And Rafe Judkins did say he's so happy they were able to work with real animals throughout this throughout the show.
Doggy Oscar.
No CGI, but the actual following from that, as we see Hopper effectively the life leave him, I thought it was a beautiful scene and really, really sad. I just about saw that through the tears on the third watch through.
Yeah, definitely. And I think actually for me as well, Marcus Rutherford, through this season, I've absolutely so enjoyed his portrayal of Perrin Ibarra. And I think here, his emotional outburst and reaction to the death of, effectively one of his wolf brothers here, and that connection was just really, really good. And of course sets him, on a path, I'm sure, where he's going to be wanting to avoid Whitecloaks at every step of the way from now on. And again, I just the attack on Geofram Bornhald, who is the father of Dain Bornhald, who Perrin had bumped into previously. It just sets up another little twist here for Perrin as well. And I just think Marcus Rutherford has been so good in this role. I've really enjoyed just the emotional range, and I think in particular here, I think the tears started again when you have the slow-mo version of him axing Geofram as well. Yeah, who kills Hopper. So it was really, really good,
and all set in motion by Shadar Logoth. Who was almost one of the villains of last season, the one that had captured Egwene and captured Perrin and tortured Perrin to find out what he was, and takes an opportunity in the middle of battle. And there's a moment when Perrin and the Aiel are almost fighting side by side with the Whitecloaks because they all have the same purpose. And then when Shadar Logoth steps in and tries to take out Perrin in the middle of this battle, it's not part of the battle. He's going to take him out and find out what he truly is. And then Hopper comes in to stop that and is killed by Geofram. So again, no love lost between those two characters, and I'm sure they will meet again in the future. And now Dain aggressively trying to go after Perrin, being held back by his men because he's murdered his father as well. So I thought it was a really interesting scene. But again, after Egwene taking out Rena, we have Perrin here murdering somebody else, murdering the leader of the Whitecloaks. So another of our friends group of Rand, another murderer.
Really seeing the questioners kind of so Valder and them, who were the villains, as you were they're basically the Inquisition of the militant arm of the an order of kind of religion that hates the witches of Tar Valon. Really gonna start kind of figuring everyone who was there is a dark friend. Start hunting them mercifully, because they already were looking for them. So, based on season 1. Now, and you already hear also, when Dain is talking to his father, asking about the prophecies, which so happy they came up. Even they knew the dragon was prophesized to kind of come back this week, at this place. So, there is no love lost. They don't like the witches of Tar Valon. They don't like the dragon. They don't like
the Seanchan either.
No. So you're just setting up this army of militant religious zealots going after.
Yeah, and what's interesting is after the whole of season 1, where again they were the villains, and throughout this season we saw them a little bit and kind of got to know Dain a little bit better, and his version of the Whitecloaks versus what we've seen from Shadar Logoth were quite different. But in the opening of the episode, when they're talking about going to Falme, they're going because the people of Falme reached out to every single king, queen, and the Order of Aes Sedai, and nobody answered the call to come and save them. They have to put themselves in between this slaver army that have come in, taking control of Falme, or else what good are they? So while we may call them militant and evil and bad guys for the show, they are the only ones that are stepping in, and they say they're doing it regardless of whether they all die here or not. They have to put themselves in this place helping to stop the slavers from coming in.
Well, that's it. And
very
you do
solid
get
moral choice there. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, you do get that distinction between the questioners of Charles Valder and the more military side of it with the Bornholds in particular. I mean, in the earlier episode, Charles Valder is kind of fairly scathing of Dain Bornhald because he believes he's only there because of his father who leads this army. So I kind of, I do like that kind of complexity here with the Whitecloaks, but again, it's kind of, in a sense, maybe being simplified again with the attack on Geofram and his death. The other thing to mention about this as well is as Perrin, Hopper, and the three Aiel are walking towards Falme, he does actually tell Hopper to stay. So
yes, he did.
Always train your dogs, everyone.
Bad doggy. He's the bestest
bad
boy.
dog.
Bad doggy.
If only he had listened to his wolf brother in that instance. But
well, the outcome could have been that Perrin was killed because Hopper did save him from being killed.
No, agreed.
Yeah, it's part of his pack.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that intrigued me there was the fog. I mean, that was the biggest incense burning, I'm guessing, I've ever seen. But when they're in their camp, there is a hint that they have something up their sleeves. So initially I was thinking, is this some form of magic in and of itself? But then you see all the pack of children wafting their incense.
Altar boys, John. Altar boys.
I guess so, yeah. A pack of altar boys spearheading the crusade, I guess.
Is that a gaggle or a gaggle of altar boys?
So I thought that was kind of interesting, but it seemed like, those incense burners were sort of doing overtime, really, to create that amount of fog.
Yeah,
I know, it was great. And look, to kind of wrap up the kind of this whole kind of point, seeing where Perrin went and what's going to happen with Whitecloaks in season 3 is very much why I'm so interested to see how they fork these stories now and expand upon them, because you do have this, like, the Whitecloaks are a really interesting part of the story. The Wolf Brothers are a really interesting part of the story. So seeing how they're going to kind of, again, expand out. This is just the beginning. So it's going to be interesting. We see, unfortunately, Ingtar is gone. In order for Perrin and the Aiel and Loial to get there, you lose Ingtar.
Yeah, he has his Boromir moment for sure here. And there I was convinced he was a Dark Friend.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Earlier in the season. So proven wrong there, I guess.
Yeah.
At least within the TV show.
At least within the TV show, exactly. What was really unfortunate about poor Ingtar, he was standing beside the Aiel, who are known warriors, talking about how great them using their strategies of fighting in the smaller streets, because a man could take down 50 of the attacking force, and then unfortunately he tried to take down 50 of the attacking force on his own, and ended off with 2 swords in his back.
But it's also,
it's another sad loss in a very quick movement. Effectively.
I think that was really good. You know, this is a really epic ending and season finale, but at the same time, there's just so much great stuff that's in there that, in a sense, isn't epic. Like, I just loved how the 3 Aiel warriors made their way through the alleys of that city, you know, stopping, using all their senses. I just thought it was really, really cool. And then also seeing them again, fighting in the midst of battle. I just can't tire of the fighting style that they've gone with in this program. Absolutely. Really, for those lady warriors. I think that it's absolutely so cool. Like pure efficiency, and as you say, in a sense, it maybe draws Ingtar into a false sense of what he can do, and ultimately gets his Boromir moment. In the same way that I think Loial kind of gets his Samwise Gamgee moment with his speech, around, where he says, stop thinking of the heroes of yesterday. We are the heroes of today, not of the past. We need to use the horn here and now, and ultimately when the group bump into Matt, he's able to use the dagger of Shadar Logoth, to open it up. Because up till now we've just seen Turok sort of using a particular way to open it, which they can't fathom out in the heat of battle.
Yeah.
So I just really enjoyed this from Loial, because it was a great sort of stand-up moment, and we're here for today, we have to fight now kind of moment, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and for anyone wondering who those names are, that's from Lord of the Rings. Don't worry if you don't know Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Exactly.
Different.
Good stuff. Anything else on Perrin and the group that we have there?
Yeah, just very quickly, we do see Masema is the only Shintaran left of that group. He survives. Right. In the books, he's a big character. We've kind of only seen he's been a secondary background character. He's been there since they left and has been part of this group, but never really talked. But they do focus him at the end.
Yes, they do.
Staring up in awe and amazement at the group and the dragon.
Yes.
I feel they'll kind of lean into him as a character. So well done to that guy who just, the actor himself, he managed to get himself a part where he's like, everyone will think, Ingtar is the one to go, get that role, you're going to be great. No. You're playing the long game. Well done.
Yeah, the actor who plays Masema was in The Last Kingdom. He was a big character in The Last Kingdom as well.
Oh, wow.
Which I loved. So as soon as I saw him, totally recognised him, and really pleased that he is Masema.
Excellent. So we may see more of him in season 3 as well.
Indeed, it's awesome.
Speaking of threes, let's go on to our spoke number 3. Another one of the group. We've got Moiraine and Lan reuniting. Obviously Hopper's death was a very emotional moment in this episode, but I realised how involved I am with these characters when I saw Lan and Moiraine reunite and reconnect. I thought it was so well filmed, so well done, the CGI of it. Seeing them be incorporated again using the weaves, I thought was fantastic. And we do get the admission from Moiraine that she didn't lie to Lan when she said they weren't equals. It was because Moiraine always believed Lan was her better. I thought that was a nice, a nice moment.
Yeah, really, really good.
Yes, so amazingly, such a narrative kind of pump the fist, just well done. Like you wrote a line that everyone was like, "Oh my god, how could you say it?" And it's because, and then they pay it off like 4 episodes later in a way that you're like, just chef's kiss on that.
I think that, and then as you say, just how the weave sort of embraced them and spun around them, I thought was really good. I mean, even to the point where it felt like it was pulling them back together, certainly as it reached and enveloped around their heads, because you just see their foreheads touch, and it was just really, really good. And following on from that really emotional outpouring from Moiraine, I just really, really enjoyed it. It just shows you how strong these two are.
Absolutely. And even as the camera panned back, they look like they are one. You just see it from Lan, and Moiraine is on the other side of them. As the camera pulls back, it is the two of them are one again.
Some really interesting facial expressions from Lan as well, almost as though, not that it hurts, but it's uncomfortable for that to be done to him, which I thought was kind of interesting as well. Just face in his face, it felt like, it is such an important element because of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well.
But like even Lan's lines to Moiraine beforehand saying, "I know what you feel. I know you feel unprepared. I know you feel concerned and worried. I know all about this. I know you feel weak, but it's not going to hurt me. I know these things, and we can only be stronger together." Really great moment.
It was a really tender scene, I thought. And I mean, I think mentioned the visuals, but again, it's worth the visuals, the acting, but also the music. There's some really beautiful music in this moment as well. And I really, really enjoyed it, and in a sense, the SFX of the weave just as well added that. I mean, the location along the beach, where they get effectively, get the F out of my waygate, from Lanfear, where she doesn't blow them a kiss. That whole, coastline, the setting of it was just phenomenal.
Absolutely.
That's half of it is just the landscape is so epic as well. It just really adds to the weight of everything happening. Absolutely. Even in these tender moments, that backdrop, so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've seen the water bond, mostly the practical aspects of it. In season 1, we saw them when they were training, especially when they got to the Aes Sedai kind of camp. And they've talked about it more so as we went into season 2, which is the not having that connection. And it is understanding where that person is at all times, understanding what they're feeling, sometimes what their emotions are, what their thoughts are. But also kind of being another half of a whole. You are kind of bonded into one almost. Again, the duality of man versus woman, woman versus man, two halves of the whole, not even just the kind of male versus yin yang, but also just how two people can fit and kind of become a whole is talked about. And one of the parts I loved so much is when we talked about how the visuals showed that you could see a weave go from the two heads, their brains, and then their noses and their ears, connecting their noses, connecting their mouths, connecting their hearts, and then one just going into the kind of center kind of sternum as well. All that kind of showing how that is kind of how the level of connection, and then you see the emotional aspect with the rising, soaring music of the instrumental kind of orchestra. Yeah. What I really enjoy is that will play so much more later as well, when you start to see the downsides of we heard when a kind of Aes Sedai dies and the warder kind of dies, and when a warder dies, the Aes Sedai. You hear all these bits about how, when a bond is broken, we started to hear about it here, but also then, how a bond is reforged and things. Just really planting so many seeds, but at the same time paying off what they did these last 8 episodes. Just fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it leads into some of the best moments that we've seen with Moiraine and Lan this season, as the complementary aspects. I think it would be kind of what you're talking about, Chris, between the two of them as they're bonded together, where we have Lan battling on the beach against the oncoming Seanchan as Moiraine is raising the weave to take out the boats that are shielding Rand. I think it's so cool as the camera pans around. There's some awesome moments with Lan as he grabs arrows out of the air twice and uses them to stab the Seanchan coming towards him. But nothing sells it more for me than Rosamund Pike and her controlling of these weaves that she's drawing together. I think it looks so amazing. She's really going for it. It looks so cool as she effectively, again, another member of Rand's friend group, murders an entire ship full of people, and then more ships, and then more ships, and then more ships, and takes them all out and drowns everyone on there, and tells Lan, importantly, I will kill 1,000 innocent people to protect Rand. That's what it means to support the Dragon Reborn. Again, another big moment for Moiraine as a character. Yeah.
And again, it's just so good with the fighting of Lan. I think the way Rosamund Pike, her movements in generating that weave look so cool. Just the fluidity of it, and sort of crouched down as she's focused on, attacking these boats that hold the Damane that are shielding Rand. Really just loved all of this. I also like their conversations sort of leading up to this as well, because again, you know, we'll come to it a bit more in Spoke 4, but, you know, when they're blown to the beach by Lanfear, you know, Lanfear just says, when the time comes, raise the banner. So, you know, she plans, and this dawns on Moiraine and Lan that, you know, she intended them to be in that place, in order to disrupt Ishamael's plan as well. So I loved that, but also, you know, in a sense, it's the simplicity of the conversation that they have, where Moiraine and Lan are talking about Ishamael and Lanfear and Ways Lanfear being friends. And Lan just says, just like these kids. And that is the simplicity of that. They also were best friends, but Luz ultimately pushed them to the dark. Here, you know, they are friends as well. And in that, there's the reason why a lot of them are suspicious of this group, you know, at Tal Valon and so on. But also, is it going to be Rand's own actions, his decisions that push his friends to the dark?
Absolutely.
You know, and I just, you know, again, it's one of those points that connects to that opening, that prologue with Lews Therin and Ishamael, and it was just really good. Again, just how this all played together. I think literally for me, every part of it worked.
Yeah.
And it was so good. Whether it was on the epic scale, the action scale, the visuals, the music, all down to the little detail, you know, and it was just really superbly crafted, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there wasn't a wasted moment. Really,
no,
like
absolutely.
that's why I was like, and they still chose to give what, like a minute and 45 seconds to the opening credits more. Yeah. And I was like, well, bold move, but it was worth it.
Absolutely. I almost forgot how great those opening credits were. Sorry to go back to them again. But the music and the opening credits was so cool, and great to have them in this final episode. But again, these episodes can run as long as they want them to. So we have another hour and 10 minutes full on with this episode as well. So it is a long episode, especially compared to the other shows that we think of as an hour, and it's only 40 minutes. So but anything else about Moiraine and Lan at this point in the episode?
No, nothing yet.
Nope.
Right, let's get on to spoke number 4, Lanfear and Ishamael's plans. Really much more evident here that both of them are working against each other, and really liked the way they interact in this episode. The fact that we have Lanfear bringing Rand to the city of Falme, and she goes straight to Ishamael and goes, right, he's here now. You're just gonna wait around for decades, possibly putting all your little chess pieces in place to have the perfect time for Rand to be here. But he's here right now. You're gonna have to make do. And this is Lanfear's plan of effectively taking down Ishamael.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have that moment where he asks, "Are you going to betray me?" And she's like, "Of course I am."
I do like it also in the conversation here where he's going, "Why did I bring you back?" And then goes, "Well, I suppose you're the opposite of me. You're the one I will always work side by side with." Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, I loved these two, and I think this really culminated both these characters from this season, actually, in terms of the TV, because from a book perspective, I am aware of Lanfear, but her story is rapidly progressed here in comparison to the books. And Ishamael also rapidly progressed. But I love the fact that, in a sense, you know, you've got this fantastically epic battle happening in Falme. Falme is a chessboard here, and you've got Lanfear and Ishamael just sort of moving the pieces around, you know. Chris mentioned about the lady from Carrion, helping them get the Horn of Valere. You've got, great little, you know, cameo again from Master Doman as Lanfear comes up to him, gives him a full purse of monies, in order to put some pieces of rock, as far as Master Doman is concerned, into the deepest part of the sea.
Yeah.
I'll pay you for it. So you know, because he's just got cha-ching, because the seal's made of Coolenta with this really, you know, expensive, rare rock or material,
but he got a lot of money for the bits of the broken seal from Ishamael. But so he's looking for a bit more of that cash. Yeah.
So you know,
and her plan is effectively to throw the rest of the Forsaken into the ocean. Great plan.
It is. It's really good. And the other thing about it is that I'm still so intrigued by Lanfear because of what happens at the final words spoken in this season. Because, you know, there's an element here that she helped Rand, but ultimately, you know, as she said, there are many pathways to the dark, and she has just decided that actually Ishamael's, you know, as she says to him, I balance you, you're too precise, you wait too long, you don't act, he's here, he's ready, and we can move now. Ishamael, we're not ready, you know, I've been betrayed. But still, you know, at this moment I'm there going, well, Lanfear is still keeping him on a path to the dark, even though it's a reprieve from what Ishamael had planned for him at the top of the tower. So, like, I just really, really enjoyed all this.
I don't know anymore. I think they're playing with the character of Lanfear so much in that she actually, she has her own oaths to the Dark One. Those last words, "Light be with you, Randall Thor," like, very much imply that the light side, like.
Oh, like, really? Okay.
Yeah, well, so she loves Randall Thor. She loves Luce Therin. Like, they were a couple. They were in love. Deep, deep love. So I do wonder, and she alludes to the fact with Leandrin, like, she talks about, we all have our oaths. How you enact on them and what you do via those is on you. Yeah. I do start to, like, question it. Like, they always, like, they play, I think they're playing with that. Like,
definitely.
Especially with the seals, finding out that she gave the horn. She helped get the horn. She has her own plans and agreed. Yeah. I do start to wonder, like,
I'm the same.
She looks frightened. I'm like, they may actually make her that kind of anti-hero that is working for the dark side but kind of is in love and end up being somewhat of a, you could question it by season 3-4, like, she's doing bad things but she's doing it to make Randall Thor the dragon. She is pushing him forward, not into the dark side, but to be the, like, whatever comes from it. She just wants him to be him and in love with her.
As you say, it was her final words, because it wasn't just her talking about the light or whatever. It was kind of that where you want the light to protect someone. And that to me felt unusual for a dark friend to be saying that, you know? Okay. Yeah. And even, I guess, taking out the other Forsaken by dumping them in the sea as well. I was like, okay, you know, that seems a bit unusual, but nonetheless, so I you know, I'm totally there with you on this, Chris. I think they're playing around with it, keeping her sort of fluid as to where she might land, because I still think there's those questions, like you say, but still, I think her saying to Leandrin, there are many ways to the dark. You know, is she just taking, Rand around the roundabout a few times so he gets dizzy and will ultimately make his way to the dark and join the dark ultimately?
Yeah. I think she didn't believe in Ishamael's plan, which was basically, if I talk to Rand enough, he will choose to break the world. You know, if I push his friends into enough danger, he will choose saving his friends over saving the world, was kind of Ishamael's plan. That's why he had so many moving pieces, because he's got lots of friends. Whereas Lanfear, I feel, was saying, look, we've done this before. You're going to lose here, Ishamael. I'm taking you off the table. And then genuinely, I think she fears for Rand, as Chris said, because she loves him and because she is so terrified about what the Forsaken are going to do to him. They are a very different power to Lanfear, it seems. Lanfear loose and Ishamael being friends in the past. Not much mention of the other Forsaken being friends in the past, or being at least being as close as those three were. So I feel like that was her, regardless of the words, you're probably right. They do mean a little bit more than I'm giving them credit for, but I thought that was a bit of like, oh, God help you.
It is.
Even someone like myself, an atheist, would say the words, God help you, because it's the first thing that comes to mind, Yeah,
no, I mean, I think it is. It's also just because she is a Forsaken.
Yeah.
It just felt like, okay, there's a bit of fluidity here, or they're building that into it. But because, as I say, this is certainly further than I know the character.
Yes, of course. Of course, yeah.
And I thought that was really good.
But I do think what's important about the returning of the Forsaken at the end of the episode, we might as well skip to that because that's what we're talking about right now. The return of one of the Forsaken that we've never met before. There's also something really interesting about what this newly introduced Forsaken says. Moghedien, we heard her mentioned earlier on in the season, but this is the kind of spider as she's introducing herself, going softly, softly from the shadows. That's what you told me, Lanfear. You've told me I was too scared. You told me I was too weak. While she has Lanfear trapped in her clutches using her powers, I think there's a lot more to that as well. The fact that Lanfear is trapped and isn't able to get out of this, and has taunted this person before, saying the methods you used in the past, you weren't very strong, were you? That's not a great way. And she says to her, this is a warning. This is a threat, we are here to carry out the mission, which is getting Rand for the Dark One.
Absolutely. Well, as she says, you and Ishamael were always too close to the dragon. Mm-hmm. The rest of us don't share that failing.
Exactly.
And, Rand is ours now. All 5 of them are. So, this feels like they're going to be taking a much more punchy, direct route to Rand al'Thor and the others from the Two Rivers. So, she was great. I mean, this is, again, first time for me, for Moghedien, for one of the Forsaken, and I loved Scary Bjork.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I did have to look up and see, was it Bjork playing the role? I haven't seen Bjork in a little while.
I loved how the room went into shadow as she kind of just enters into the room, and then as she left, it just all came back to colour, and you kind of see Lanfear's watery eyes sort of feeling sort of almost hyperventilating with what's just happened. But Lanfear does still say, you don't want to go up against me. It's not that Lanfear would be an easy pushover. I do feel here that, Moghedien probably had the element of surprise, because speaking of Spoke 4, Lanfear's plans did come a little bit undone here. I think she was hoping to walk in and see that the seals had gone, and instead finds them broken.
She was practically skipping through the castle in Falme, going, everything's working out, everything's coming up Lanfear. Yeah.
So there's an interesting thing that I really liked, sort of a bit earlier in the episode as well, where Ishamael comes into a room where Lady Saroth and her voice are, and he just sort of wipes his hands, and there's a puff of dust that comes out of them. I guess just after he had broken the seals to release the other Forsaken, but it was just a really nice little touch. Again, it was like, the devil in the detail. And I thought this episode had just so much of that interlaced with these, the grand events happening, the epic events, and so on. I really, really enjoyed it.
And it's interesting as well, because didn't they say that this seal was so powerful that he couldn't even break out of it? So
at the start.
Interesting, he can break the other Forsaken out of their seals, though.
With his bare hands.
Well, yeah, but he did do that, of course, with Lanfear. That's how she was freed. So he was able to do it. Probably just couldn't break out of his own seal. But I did like that moment with Lady Saroth as well, as she tells him everything that's happened in the battle. Oh no, Turek's dead, and they've got the Horn of Valere. He's going, oh God, this whole plan is falling apart right around me, right here. So I did like that as well, as she sent off to the boats.
Yes. I think she managed to escape the boat, actually. I think she fell into the water. Possibly. Don't know.
Yeah. I get the feeling that the like opening of season 3 is going to be the aftermath. It's kind of like, and we're back in Falme, and here's what happened.
Yeah. I presume we will. We haven't lost all of the Seanchan in this episode here. They may have just been an advanced force for an even bigger force to come, but they have been pretty cool this season. Let's go on to our final spoke of the wheel: the dragon and his friends reborn. As our final moment from the episode. We talked a little bit about bits and pieces of it, but it's good to kind of tie everything up together here. We have Egwene and Rand atop the tower as Rand is trying to save Egwene, and he tells her, I came here to save you, but you didn't need to be saving yourself. Let's just leave. Let's just go. Let's get out of here right now. If only they would have.
Yes. And can I just make one quick... We had the ultimate Indiana Jones moment from Rand al'Thor here, where he goes on his way up to the tower. He enters and is stopped by Turok and the other guards. And the Turok takes out, you've got a heron blade. Let's see what down here the heron blade really means. And he flourishes his blade. And Rand essentially does the Indiana Jones of taking a gun out, shooting. Just one power, load of needles, just kills them all. So good.
Love that. I loved how they fell as well, just kind of on their knees, almost like sort of bending the knee to the dragon reborn as well. And just so cool visually.
Absolutely.
How it was done.
And then we see the voice of Turok taking his own life as well, because he serves the blood. So
I would have taken the win there, no matter what it was like.
Run.
I'd be like, okay. Thanks for sparing me. Be the voice of the dragon or something. I don't know.
Yes.
I say, I pledge my allegiance to you, oh dragon. I'm such a coward.
It was so good to see. I found it was just a nice, I don't know if it was an intentional nod or just the way he flourishes the sword and everything, and you see Rand, boom. But that then gets him to the tower, and yes, we see that bit. And then Ishi comes.
He does.
Yeah.
Shields him, no less. Ishamael here, you will turn to the dark, like you did to me. Again, just going back to the beginning there, back 3,000 years ago, in fact, still there in his mind. I love how, Ishamael, just the portrayal of him here on top, seemingly very confident in his own abilities. I mean, even with Matt, who has gotten to the top of the tower after blowing the horn and releasing the heroes of the horn, which was very cool as well. Oh my goodness, that was really good. I am seeing, is it Uno was there with the eye patch, but also I think it was just from the credits. There was Arthur Hawkwing as well, that was there. So that was just really cool.
I know, and I think I might have edited out your only mention of Arthur Hawkwing because we couldn't include it in the podcast itself. But he is a big character in the book. There you go. He's referenced in the book.
But the horn itself was beautifully designed, looks so good, and seeing Matt take it, and then I guess going back to their Menethran roots, where he just says, I am one of you, I remember, and speaking in the old tongue.
Yes, absolutely. Look, I can't believe this wasn't a spoke of the wheel on its own. Matt's rising from a character that has had such little screen time this season, but all we've known is he's the least dependable of the friends of Rand. That's all we've seen of him. He's been down on himself the whole season. This moment of realization where he's the one that has to blow the horn because he can't make it to Rand. He freezes time and then realizes not only is he someone that belongs with Rand and belongs among this group of friends, he's also a hero of the horn himself. As some of the heroes say, we fought alongside you many times before and we will again in the future. I thought it was a great moment.
It was really good.
I wish we'd had more screen time with Matt throughout this season, because even if it had been him complaining or him being down on himself, this would have meant even more. But as it stands in this episode, there's so much power to Matt here, so much intelligence of him in getting himself out of prison and taking being able to take the dagger with him without it corrupting him. I thought that was great as well. But yeah, there was so much power to this moment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And he gets his staff ultimately with a pointy end, but he gets he gets his staff, and I loved how he wielded it in that battle on the wall ramparts, as he, trying to fight his way through the soldiers to get up to the top of the tower.
Oh, he gets some memory back of his fighting abilities there, doesn't he?
Yeah, certainly does.
Whatever way Ishamael was trying to pervert those in the visions that he gave to Matt in the last episode, this Matt's a pretty cool character. I like him.
Yeah. No, 100%. And so we'll actually see everyone gets their weapon. So obviously, Rand has his sword. If you look at any of the fan art from the books, you'll always see Perrin with a big toothed axe. So the kind of the 2 half moon axe. We see him kill the Whitecloak with.
Yeah.
And we see him later with as well, the bigger version, Bornhald's real big kind of tooth axe. So, and then you see always, Matt with a staff, and be it with a kind of blade on the top, like a version or different. You always see him with those types, and then you'll see Rand with some version of a sword or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was always the kind of fan art always around. And just seeing how they portrayed that, how they gave everyone their thing, again, uniquely adapting it to this kind of hit. Seeing him as a hero, seeing that redemption arc, which, yeah, I think I'm with you, Derek. I think they could have lent in a tiny bit more, just even a few more down and out moments. But one thing I'll call out, Donald Finn, who took over this role in this season and is confirmed that he's back, he's there for next season, and he's not going anywhere.
Let's hope they don't recast him a third time.
Exactly. He's really kind of shone for me as this actor who's just kind of, he came in and took over a role, and he had to kind of build on what was already done in season 1, and that kind of mannerism, make it his own. And then on top of it, show the growth on the character and growth on screen. Just does it so beautifully. And then get some huge choreography at the end. It's like, oh, fantastic. But he then ends up on the tower as well. And is ultimately the one who wounds Rand.
Yeah.
With this fantastic, well, basically he just kind of hooks the staff up in a very cool way. He's just like, and then throws it. And it's an illusion of Ishamael, and goes right into Rand and gives him this festering wound from the dagger of Shadar Logoth.
Yes.
Like, it is the wound that was cutting, that dissolved the box around the horn. Like, that dissolved the lock on the door. Like, it's a bad wound.
Yes, it is. And you know what? I am with Ishamael. How did he not see that? I saw that the second he came up the stairs. Don't throw this dagger through the air when you see your friend is on the other side of Ishamael. Yes. Like, even if Ishamael was killed with the dagger, it was going to go straight through him and straight into Rand. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It was definitely going to happen. And he knows the prophecy, right? So Min's prophecy does come true. It didn't look the same as Min saw it, but the dagger wielded by Matt penetrated Rand.
Yeah, I think it was just all so good at the top of this tower. I think, with our heroes, but also I think with Ishamael as well. I think, that conversation he has with Rand, where Rand effectively refuses to join the Dark One. He goes, I am certain of it. And yet, when Rand eventually kills Ishamael, and you have Ishamael kind of looking up at the sky on his back, and he's like looking up and he's saying it's beautiful, and you have Rand, because Ishamael is still talking to him as though he is Luz, so
he's calling him my friend,
and calling him my friend, all of this, so it's just a really kind of unusual thing, and you have Rand sort of kind of just moving forward to say, what do you see? And it just says nothing. It's beautiful as he kind of goes to dust. And I just thought that was a really good moment. And I also thought the seagulls might have sort of pooed on him or something like that. It's like, of all the birds to be flying over you as you die, and the last thing you want is a seagull.
Absolutely.
But I mean, joking aside, I thought that was just really, really sort of epic in its own way, certainly in terms of how this episode started. And you have Egwene just showing how goddamn powerful she is, really. Effectively holding off Ishamael for enough time to be reinforced by Perrin, who has Uno's shield that he's given him. And I thought this was really fantastic. And then Elaine becomes more important for Rand in that storyline. So I kind of like Rand just saying, "Who are you? Who on earth are you? I don't remember growing up in the Two Rivers with you." It was kind of like, kind of wondering what's going on. So I kind of really liked how this all came together, and then with them all stood together once Moiraine's magic has worked its wonders to remove that shielding. And again, see the power of Rand here, who ultimately gets his heron mark on his palm as well.
Yes, he does. Yes, it burns in as the blade disintegrates.
I think the prophecies suggest that he will get another mark on his other hand.
Oh, okay. Well. Okay, I just assumed the other mark that he was getting is the one through his stomach that will never, ever heal.
Well, maybe, but that's where I'm up to at the moment.
Okay. I'm not up to there. I'm not really.
But seeing the heron mark was really, really good, because again, another element of the prophecy that he is the dragon reborn, let alone.
They say that he will be marked at Falme.
Yeah.
As he proclaims himself in the sky with fire. That's the one part I do hope they kind of lean into and kind of investigate more in season 3, because they touched on it enough. And it became a big central topic these last 2 episodes, that I do hope that they kind of lean into the prophecies, or at least discuss them more, kind of have Varen read them out, kind of go, these what the prophecies are, blah, 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 he's done this, blah, 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 he did this, and now these. Because they are a huge part of the book, and I think, I understand why they've touched briefly, but don't want to lean too much into them in this season, because again, it's not a lot to explain, but it's a lot of Basil exposition type moment where you have to kind of go, here's all the prophecies written by a madman, blah, 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 blah. And I think they'll do that next, because I think the aim is now that Rand is the dragon and the prophecies will be fulfilled. So they're going to have to go, and this season, Rand will fulfill this prophecy, this prophecy, this prophecy, this prophecy. What does that mean? Who knows?
I'm pretty trusting in Rafe Judkins to not do it that way, but I think it was important to do it this way in this season, where there are prophecies that exist. Nobody believes in them, but they come true. Even Min's prophecy again of Matt being the one to kill Rand or to stab Rand, that does come true here. So when you have it the other way around, where they're fulfilling prophecies that they're not exactly sure, where they're fulfilling prophecies that they haven't heard, or fulfilling prophecies that other people know about them, rather than them trying to follow prophecies and lay out the path for them, I think that makes more sense, because now that it's happened, they're more likely to seek out those prophecies and see what the next step is, I guess, on the next journey into the next season. But speaking of it's happened before, it will happen again. Just to wrap up, I guess my point is really around the friends of Rand, and this final point, at the end of the episode. So, Ishamael is saying, if you keep forcing it, if you don't come to my side, they will all turn to the dark. So what we've seen throughout this episode is, and this is probably from my view of other, fantasy books and other works like this, where each of these characters now, all of Rand's friends, have either murdered, executed, or tortured someone in this episode as they're trying to come back together as a group. We've had Matt stabbing Rand, effectively killing Rand. If Elaine hadn't been there, he would probably be dead. We've had Egwene executing and murdering her torturer. She had a choice to let her go. We saw Rena releasing Egwene's bond. She had the choice to let her go, but she chose to murder her. Nynaeve, who we haven't even talked about at all in this episode, there is a reason for that, but we have her torturing a Seanchan to get the information, but she's going brutally far. You see the reaction from Elaine to how Nynaeve is treating her. I have a feeling if that Seanchan had survived the walk to the tower, she probably wouldn't have survived any further, because Nynaeve was really punishing her for what they had all done to Egwene. And we have Perrin turning and killing the White Cloak leader. So again, reacting on revenge and murdering someone. Many different stories, including Harry Potter, probably the most famous one most recently, I suppose, talks about that leaving the stain on your soul, that turning you to the dark. If you murder and kill someone out of revenge or out of spite, then that's something that turns your soul to the darkness. So I do feel, because we've had this happen to all of those characters in this episode as they're lining up beside Rand, that they are potentially turning into his Forsaken, his group of dark friends in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it is, the parallel is also drawn there by Lan, and Moiraine speaking on the beach. It's to what extent will they, break expectations?
Yes.
And that's what's really good about how this story is told, I think.
Yeah. And what I also like about it from a writing and an entertainment point of view, you're also watching these young kids, all who are a great group of friends together, murdering people and cheering for it. As a viewer, you're going, yes, Egwene should absolutely be killing Rena. Yes, absolutely. We've seen what these Suldam have done to Egwene, tortured her. Absolutely, they deserve what they get. Oh, the leader of the Whitecloaks murdered a dog who was a friend of Perrin's. He absolutely is entitled to murder him back. You're cheering for all of these characters murdering and taking their revenge out, because there are good guys at the moment.
Yeah. How far will you go to save the world?
Exactly. And you even hear Moiraine, I'll kill...
Well, she took out
1,000 innocent people. Whether they were fully innocent is to be seen, but
she didn't know, and Lan questioned her.
No, exactly, exactly. So it's really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think for me as well, just on again as a scene, I absolutely loved as Rand is proclaimed the dragon, and the banner of this fiery dragon is going up around the tower and so on. There's that moment. I mean, not only is it epic as hell, and in terms of the feel of it, but there's a great shot there where it's down from the population of Falme looking up. You have the dragon fiery behind, and just silhouetted on that is the Dragon Reborn, is Rand al'Thor.
With a shit haircut. Yeah.
With his shit haircut, yeah, exactly. And the music was superb, and then he is joined by, his friends as well. Yeah. And I just thought that was, great.
Fabulous.
Really cherry on top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Beautiful ending shot. Really is a way to kind of set the scene for season 3. Just kind of you've set up your characters, the chessboard's here, boom, that's your money shot right there.
Yeah.
That's what the shot I would love to see in the cinema.
Absolutely.
That scene of the dragon encircling the tower and then laureling the rest and just kind of proclaiming the dragon. I was just that actually one that gave me chills.
Yeah.
A few scenes gave me chills on this kind of
absolutely.
Throughout this episode. That one scene for me was just how they kind of pulled that together was fantastic.
Really, really good. And I will say, if it hadn't been for that tag with Lanfear and the Forsaken returning, it could have probably ended the series here for me, because I'm not fully aware of how the story goes on from here. They've defeated the bad that's been on screen for the whole season this season. I know there's been that other story of the Dark One, but that feels out of my knowledge right now. I don't know how it's going to raise, but if you'd had the Dragon Reborn standing on top of the tower and everybody telling me, well, he's the one that's going to save the world, him and his friends are all back together now, and roll credits, you probably could have ended the show right there, and not come back. I'm so glad they are coming back, because this was absolutely an excellent season of the show, and a great entry into the story. And I'm really excited to see more in the future. Speaking of which, anything else that we want to talk about before we wrap up our discussion about Wheel of Time?
A couple of notes from me. The Aiel talk about when they're there to find their Caracan. That they mentioned that the Caracan, their chief, the chief among chiefs. So they said they've just kind of name dropped that now to kind of say that why Avanyenda and Bane and Jayad are there. They're there to find the Caracan. So it was a one singular line, but enough to kind of set up that part of the Aiel storyline going into season 3.
Yes, Avienda said that to Perrin when she met him first, that's why she was away from her home, and why they were all away from her home, and then they look up at the Dragon Reborn and call him the Caracan.
Yeah. So nice that just kind of setting that up for the future piece. One I did want to say is obviously we see traveling. We see that's how Lanfear gets rammed out of the ways. We see this, how they've been blinking around and how she's seemingly everywhere. And it's called out previously as well as the Forsaken have weaves that no one else has. That this is a big one here. We see that how they are using the one power to zip around. Yeah. Really cool to actually see that visualized as that kind of almost like a smoke enveloping out, or white or dark in this case.
That's
enveloping out and pulling them in.
I got it more from Moghedien, actually, than Lanfear. Lanfear felt as though she was using the dark cloud from the Ways to actually move around. It just looked visually, to some extent, like it was, what's the dark cloud?
The wind.
Dark wind, that's it, in the Ways. It almost looked like she was using that. Now, she could be doing it with the weave, just the way it looked. And how we've seen it sort of portrayed previously when Nynaeve sort of set off her first nuclear detonation of the one power. That felt like that, but it was only with Moghedien as she kind of, exits from that room and she just opens up that portal almost.
Gateway,
and gateway. So, that's interesting.
That was cool.
Yeah.
No, I was happy to see it. It was a thing that like they dropped as well. Like, how are they getting everywhere? There we go. We saw. And then the final question I have, and it's one for any of our book readers, anyone who's interested as we end up. How many Forsaken? They actually haven't said the number yet. And there's a potential that I think they may. So in the book there's 13 Forsaken.
Oh, okay.
So if they're going that there's one a seal in the actual in here, as per kind of what we've seen so far, that means there's only 8 Forsaken.
Yeah.
In this TV show, which is fine. Like maybe they don't need it, but they've only named about 5 throughout the season.
Yeah, and also Lanfear with Master Doman, I thought she talked about 6 intact pieces.
Yes.
So that's 6 plus the 2 that we have. So
it's just interesting to see what will happen. Will they actually stick with the 13, or are they going to kind of just bring the number down to kind of a more manageable 8?
Well, yeah.
Just curious there. That's kind of, because they have not said how many Forsaken there were. They just keep talking about the Forsaken and the Seals. But I was just like, maybe they haven't decided yet as a writing group.
Potentially, or if they're trying to get 8 seasons and they're doing one per season. We had Ishamael last season. We have Lanfear this season, and next season potentially that's Moghedien's season, and the season after that we'll have another one. Potentially that's the way they go. But very interesting to see how they play that out with the Forsaken. I think since we haven't really talked about her a huge amount, I do want to talk about Nynaeve in notes here for a quick second. She is a really important character in the show, and I did feel a bit underserved in this episode. I do think the scene of her torturing the Seanchan at the beginning was a really tough scene, and seeing how far she's willing to go was pretty brutal. Again, she is a wisdom from Two Rivers, very strong character. And we can see how far she's willing to push it. But I have to say, if they could cut out about 10 minutes of her sitting wondering whether she should pull out the arrow from the leg of Elaine, like, really, that is all you're going to give the character to do? Really important to get Elaine up to the tower so that she can help save Rand. I get that, but they really didn't need to just keep cutting to her, trying to make the decision as to whether to do this simple task that most other characters would just snap the arrow. You know, it felt like they were trying.
She was completely losing it, to be honest, rather than simply that she, isn't able to reach out to the weave like Elaine can or Egwene can, and she can't picture it the same. And we get that again here, but it seemed like she was losing all functionality in terms of even remembering what she would have done as a wisdom. It seemed to, whether it was, maybe it was just being in the heat of battle with everything going on, and maybe it just didn't come across well enough. And it was that was taking her out of, a comfort zone, I don't know, but I would agree. I think, it felt a little underserved, Nynaeve's character.
Yeah. I was curious why they didn't do it. Like, honestly, that was, like, she had one of the best episodes this season. As earlier when she went through the gateways to become accepted. Like, one of the best episodes. And just, I thought it was all leading to her learning to control, and then just having her to not even take 2 steps backwards. Like, she seemingly goes so far back, she can't even pretend to try and help Rand. She just automatically gets Elaine to do it, like, up on the tower. Like, it's just, I didn't understand that part. Again, I know they're going to pay it off later, but it was just more like, I thought that's where it was all building to. Like, her learning that, to kind of, to get in that moment of battle, in that heat, like, to learn to take a deep breath and just embrace the source and kind of. I just didn't. That was just. It was a choice, I suppose.
And I'll be honest. I didn't even want that paid off this soon. I think there's lots of story there to tell with Nynaeve. I just felt. Do a bit more with her, just a little bit more with her, or don't cut back 3 times to show her pondering over whether she's going to crush Elaine to death if she tries to use her power taking out the arrow, or whether she's going to use her hands to take it out. Like, it just felt like cutting back to her over and over again was underlying that they had nothing to do with her here. She didn't even go up and support the shield of Egwene and Perrin. I felt like she could do that. Just come up and give them a little bit of support. But again, it seems like she has no control over her power. So she probably would have destroyed the shield rather than helping it. So they decided to just put her on the sidelines.
And of course, she was able to just turn on the channel when she had collared the other Seanchan. Because you see her sort of doing it at will in order to try and get, how to find where Egwene is. So I'm guessing that was the bracelet, the collar, and the whole setup of them having created a new Damane here from one of the Sul'dam. But, even if we'd just seen her get angry again with a little bit of a burst because they were suddenly being sort of being attacked by the Whitecloaks or the Seanchan.
Potentially, but again, I know that it's uncontrolled when she has a burst. So I just felt like they needed another line or 2 with her or something else to kind of give you a bit of insight why Nynaeve is the way she is after the Seanchan falls and Elaine gets hit by an arrow. Just felt suddenly, again, it could have been just talking about the tension that's going on in her because she's in the middle of a massive battle. She's from a small town. It must be difficult for anybody to be in that situation. But I felt like they didn't do enough with her there. And at least she got Elaine up there to help out Rand. But well, that's it. We have spoken overall. I think I was right up front saying I love this episode, one of the best episodes of TV, so I'm not going to add to that. We've talked a lot about the episode and the details of it, but overall, Chris, how about yourself? Anything to close out on? Did you enjoy this episode of The Wheel of Time?
Yeah, for me, this was one of the best episodes. It was epic with a capital E, like, for me. Well put together, well, no wasted moments really in my kind of view, in terms of everything was set up even from the beginning of the season or all the way back in season 1. Just so well put together, with some shots that I wish I was in New York to see on a big screen, in that kind of sitting in almost the front row, staring at this 2-story kind of screen, kind of like,
Never sit in the front row, Chris. It hurts
you
your
know
neck.
what I mean. But like just getting that almost IMAX feel.
Absolutely.
I think it would just be epic. So really, so happy to see how this played out. Very happy with the ending and looking forward to season 3. Just wanting to know when, and give us I believe they're at New York Comic Con, so I'm hoping we may get a date, not even a date, but a Q4, like late 2024, or they may go earlier. Let's see.
You never know. You never know. Good stuff. How about yourself, John? Any final thoughts on this episode of The Wheel of Time?
I absolutely loved this episode. I would give this 5 red cloaks out of 5. I think this was phenomenally good TV. Everything about it was superb. This epic battle, taking place in Falme, and Falme being used as a chessboard by Ishamael and Lanfear. I loved how it interacted, how they got everyone together. And there were just some really epic moments here, as I said just there, that final moment with Rand silhouetted against the fiery dragon, the visual, the look, the feel, the music, and then the more intimate stuff with Lan and Moiraine as he is kind of being rebonded with her, were just so good. And I think in terms of scale, from large to small, this had everything here. It was so good. And, the Hopper death, it really was emotional as well. I'd say Hopper, Moiraine and Lan rebonding, and that final bit with, I think Ishamael dying and the dragon being proclaimed.
Yeah. They
were just absolutely phenomenally good TV. And so, 5 red cloaks, out of 5.
Excellent. I do wonder, just quickly, because you mentioned it there, Ishamael is dead now. He's off the table, I feel.
It felt like it, but as I say, I don't know whether he's just accelerated what's happened to Ishamael in the books for me, so I have no idea. It could be that he may come back again. Who knows?
Ishamael reborn.
Yeah, but I think it's just the point that in that moment he thought that his wish was coming true. And I just thought it was really, really good.
Yeah.
Well,
let's raise a glass for the fallen comrades and enemies and go to our Wheel of Time Tavern quiz. John, do you have our final question for the Tavern quiz?
I do indeed, Derek. Fellow quizzers, fellow wheelies, yes, it is the final question of our Wheel of Time Tavern quiz. Question 8, here goes. What name does Dain Bornhald call Perrin? First in recognition, then in anger.
Okay, good stuff. A great moment there, actually, as he uses the same name for both. Yes,
he does.
Very good. Do you want to give that question one more time, John?
Yes. What name does Dain Bornhald call Perrin? First in recognition, then in anger.
Excellent.
I guess it's his cheeky nickname for him, ultimately.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. Not so cheeky the second time he uses it.
No.
That's it. That's your 8th question in our Wheel of Time Tavern quiz. Get the answers together for all 8 questions. Pop them into us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, and you could be in with a chance to get your hands on some Wheel of Time goodies. We are going to be doing a wrap-up of all of our various pub quizzes in one go in a couple of weeks' time once we get through a couple of the shows that we're covering. So you have about 2 weeks to get those answers into us for the Wheel of Time pub quiz. Also, through feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, you can send in your thoughts on any of the episodes that we're covering. We do have some emails in and some thoughts in from our fellow wheelies on this episode of Wheel of Time. First up, Elias Von Doom says, "Greetings, Wheelers. I really could not ask for much more from a season finale. I enjoyed the cycle of the story, prophecies coming true and all repeating. I was happy to see Child Aemon attacked once again, though sorry to lose Hopper. Too bad Perrin could not reach Child Aemon. We will have to wait for round 3 next season. Padan Fain did not count in Matt's resourcefulness. Mounting the dagger as a spear was very smart. The battles and encounters from the beach to city streets to the tower were all great. The tower rooftop showdown was fantastic. I cheered when Egwene sussed out Renna's story and delivered the final beatdown. The destruction of the Seanchan fleet was devastating. They got what they deserved. Too bad for the Damani. Will Lanfear wind up joining forces with Moiraine and company? A few threads need tending to. Liandrin needs sorted. The Amlin seat, if recovered, needs to see to that. I look forward to meeting the remaining Forsaken and Moiraine, getting the band back together. The wheel weaves as the wheel wills. Also, all of this has happened before, and it will happen again. Elias von Doom. Good thoughts, Elias. Yeah, I think we were talking about a few of those points, but yes, there's definitely a lot more on the table for next season. We didn't even see the Aes Sedai and the Amlin seat at all this episode, and what's going on with Liandrin. They were out of this episode. This was all about Rand and his friends. So lots more to happen in season 3.
Absolutely, there were a few things that didn't sort of happen in this season, which I'm half expecting will happen in season 3 as well.
I do hope we get to go back to the White Tower. Like I think with the Aes Sedai and Liandrin, as you said, Von Doom. I think they'll bring us back next season and definitely start to close out some of those threads.
Exactly.
Thanks, Elias.
Yeah, thanks so much, Elias Von Doom. Also by email, Coffee and Vodka says, greeting fellow invading defenders. Honestly, in all the battle and spectacle, and as well as everything was tied up, I've only got a few thoughts and a question. The revelation of Matt's status was nicely surprising. Nynaeve's roles surprisingly fizzled out early on. Moiraine and Lan together again was a wonderful surprise. Rand's Tower Top Dragon Reborn reveal, though spectacular, was anything but a surprise. Selene has surprisingly become Lanfear the Grey, and poor Hopper's fate shows not all surprises are good. Not seeing Rhaema in all of this, did you happen to see if she was rescued? The star was hands down Egwene. She not only kept her promise to Rhaena, but defended her friends from Ishamael's attack, winning the Badass Blue Ribbon Award. I'm assuming Liandrin was laying low and Shran was recuperating, so unable to attend the battle. They no doubt were sorry to have missed the fireworks show. For all the embattled confusion, a much tidier conclusion than I was expecting. 4 Matterhorns, dragon-branded Rands, and Lanfear lamentations out of 5. Peace and take care. Coffee and Vodka. Excellent stuff, Coffee and Vodka. I am totally with you there on the 4 Matterhorns. Yes, what a great thing to say.
Absolutely, you could have had 5 Matterhorns, though.
Well, other than that, exactly.
Yeah. Good stuff. I think we talked about Rhaema or Rhaema. The Aes Sedai captured last episode, and her not appearing in this episode, so we don't really know where she is, but we may see her back next season. We didn't see her die, at least on screen, that I could see. So hopefully we may see her freed and back next season. Although the way things were flying around Falme, I'm not too sure how many people survived, other than those people that were looking up at the end.
Well, absolutely. We got proper bombardment from the Whitecloaks as well, with a few rocks thrown at the city.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
By the way, was that what they said their special weapon was?
It may have been, rather than the incense.
We've got a catapult and rocks.
Yeah, rather than the
pretty
incense.
much.
Okay.
It's like, it's a trebuchet. We're going to trebuchet the hell out of this.
We've created a medieval weapon.
Yeah.
This will help us win.
Yeah. I'm still going with the incense burners, because they produce a lot of incense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was like industrial scale incense burning to create that fog.
It certainly was. It certainly was.
Thanks, Coffee and Vodka. And Lanfear the Grey. I like that. I like the name. We've talked about it, but I like that name. Lanfear the Grey. I'll steal that for season 3. Over on Facebook, we also got some feedback. First up, we have feedback from Joe Herbers, who had this to say. Unfortunately, another show that didn't really hit for me. We enjoyed the season okay, but as a non-book reader, the finale didn't really pull together. Lots of violence and death, but would have liked more time spent on the plot instead. Ishamael suddenly seemed easy to kill. How did Rand suddenly have such great control over his power? And what happened to Nynaeve? She kind of fell apart, which was odd given all she's seen and done in the past. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, look, not every show's going to hit, so like, luckily they're Loki. Season 2 is also out right now, and you've also got The Boys coming, and there's a multitude of tastes out there. I think with this, I think personally it was an epic one for me, but know that Season 3 will also kind of explain a lot of that too. So show how Rand has started to gain control and all those type of things. And like, they've dropped enough hints. And again, I don't want to be book spoiler, Chris. So like, they dropped hints of things that are coming and also how things are explained. So I think they'll just start to kind of really, I think, give Season 3 a go. And one or two listens or 2 watches, and then see how you feel.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree more with you, Joe. Like, I'm not a book reader. I don't read Wheel of Time, and I think the series paid off so well. Every episode seemed to build and build and build. And, you know, while there was lots of violence and lots of death, it is a war after all that's going on, and a bit massive battle in Falme. I think this was the culmination of a lot of the plots that was set up throughout the season. Lots of great story pulled together here in that method of show don't tell as well. Like, not people sitting around a campfire going, this is what changed me as a person throughout this episode, and this is what it means for the future. We really got a lot of great character development in this episode, along with all of those amazing looking scenes, those cinema quality scenes that we're getting for a show. Again, do you remember the times 10 years ago where they had to have episodes of people sitting in a room talking to each other to keep the budget down on a series? And now we have shows costing 110 million an episode, like Wheel of Time, and being shown on a TV screen every week that we pay a couple of quid for. You know, amazing difference. And I absolutely love this.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love this as well. I mean, I would say it wouldn't change my score or how much I loved this, but I think it may be not so much that Rand suddenly has such great control over his powers. Mm-hmm. I think it's more he's kind of got the power and he has a trick to do. And I think that's probably more of it at this stage. I mean, the only thing I would say to that is, you know, Rand felt very confident there. Maybe it was just the portrayal of that. And we've had the talk of, you know, him concerned about the madness. And I feel that will develop further in season 3, but it suddenly felt as though all those concerns were gone. And maybe that was just because the band is back together because of his friends and fellow Ta'veren, you know? So, I think that might be the case. And in terms of Ishamael, you know, that was a surprise to me that he died here, if he did at all. You know, I know you asked, he may not actually be dead. It looked final.
It felt quite final, and the fact that we hear right back at the start of the episode 3,000 years ago, he wanted to die, he wanted to end it all, he didn't want to go round on another spin of the wheel, to use the terminology of the show. He was allowing himself to die because the Dragon Reborn wasn't going to come over to his side. That's almost what it felt like.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the moment where I finish my story. Great stuff, but thanks so much for your feedback, Joe. We have some more feedback in on Facebook. Kathleen Andre says, really emotional finale. Hopper dying. I cried.
Yep.
Didn't we all,
absolutely.
Kathleen? Didn't we all? Dr. Bob Phillips says, what an awfully good finale. So many nuggets of thrill and twist, tantalizing tale dangling and deserved ends being met. Spent a few minutes yelling, open the window and yeet the knife, Matt, followed by yay for the stabby stick. And finally, the moment he actually thinks he could believe in himself, he's revealed as a hero of the Horn. Now, if this was Gen V, it'd be a very different character arc that ended up with that statement. I doubt I've seen such a toxic codependency as Egwene managed to muster, or frankly, the control and concentration to hold back the right hand of the dark alone. Surely she's on the way to a seat now. Perrin was a very good boy, and Hop is in a much better place. With our pair of Princess and the Wise, I think we could be opening up another spoke completely, and perhaps a tricky love triangle with the angelic Elaine, the fiery Rand, and the all or nothing Nynaeve. And where did Bjork the spider demon come from? And she must be bad because Lanfear even fears her.
Absolutely,
I love
Dr. Bob.
Bjork the Spider Demon. That is the one. That's a sticking. That's a sticking.
That's it. Bjork's new album, Bjork and the Spider Demons.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Absolutely. I was
all
expecting
so quiet.
I was expecting Dawn French to suddenly appear.
That's a very obscure reference for our American listeners, John.
The original video was filmed in New York.
For Bjork's
yeah.
song that
But
was
this-
covered by Dawn French, who is a
Yeah,
comedian who did it for
exactly.
a show in the 90s.
I'm
Yes,
sure it's
called
gotten
French
over
and
the...
Saunders.
Yes, okay.
I'm sure French and Saunders has made its way over to the US.
I think the Vicar of Dibley maybe did, but never
Yes.
their sketch comedy.
Yeah.
So people might have picked it up on TV. But what a very obscure way to finish our coverage of Wheel of Time. Hey, we're nothing if unpredictable. Dr. Bob, thanks so much for your feedback. Yeah, absolutely loving Matt on his stabby stick and his moment that he finally believes in himself. A great moment in this episode. I thought it was really, really good and well told. Yeah, and Egwene, yeah, she's definitely on the way to her seat, maybe even the Amerlin seat at the Tower at some point in the future.
Yeah,
That'd be
and
interesting to
maybe it will go all Gen V with the Princess and the Wise and
Well.
Egwene. Who knows? It
Well.
could be. It is fantasy after all.
And it's also on Prime Video, so they can do whatever they'd like to with the adult section of their shows. Thanks so much to everybody for your feedback for this episode and your feedback throughout the series. We will be coming back, of course, with a wrap up of Wheel of Time, along with the closing out of our Wheel of Time Tavern quiz in a couple of weeks' time. So you can still get in some feedback to us. You can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com with that, or stay up to date with us over on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/TV podcast industries. John mentioned there Gen V, one of the other shows that we're covering. We're about 5 episodes into season 1 of Gen V, the spin-off from The Boys. A very different show targeted at a very different audience, but a really good show. Another group of friends going through lots and lots of different challenges, let's say.
Yes, with the one power that's normally injected into them.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. That's
Definitely
pretty
a
good.
different show.
That's pretty good.
We also recently finished up Star Wars Ahsoka, so if you watch that, don't go back and listen to all of that. And we recently started up Loki Season 2 coverage, so make sure you are tuning in every week for that going forward too.
Mm-hmm. Lots and lots of stuff going on TV Podcast Industries. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next time the wheel turns.
Yes, thank you so much for listening. And remember, the wheel weaves as the wheel wills.
It certainly does. Thank you, fellow wheelies, and of course, fellow quizzers as well, who have been joining us for the quiz.
And fellow defenders and fellow industrialists.
And fellow defenders, you name it. Thank you all for joining us as we discussed Season 2 of The Wheel of Time. Until Season 3, though, remember, keep watching, keep listening, and keep wheeling.
Bye.
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 I started reading the Wheel of Time this week, and the first time Rand is introduced, the notation after his words say, he said breathlessly. I'm wondering whether Josh Stradowski took that and ran with
Only
it.
read up to there. I was like,
That's my character.
I must
Yes.
be breathy.
Deep, deep breathy.
Exactly. Bonded together, where we have Lan battling with his sword while Moiraine raises her weave. That sounds so like she's raising her wig. As she throws her wig in the ring.